One of the most important things to do before you start shooting is to verify that the image quality settings are the way you want them. If you shoot with the wrong settings, well, there might not be much you can do to fix the problem later. The D5000 can record images with a number of different quality settings depending on your needs. Let's start by going to the Shooting menu tab and choosing Image Quality. There are 7 options to choose from. You've probably already heard the terms JPEG and RAW to describe the 2 main types of files that are recorded with digital cameras. In fact, you can set up the D5000 to record either one or even both of them simultaneously if you'd like. In other words, with any of these 3 choices, you can have the camera save 2 files every time you trip the shutter, a JPEG file and a RAW file. For the beginning photographer who wants to spend more time behind the camera and less time at the computer editing, JPEG is probably the best format to use. During the remainder of this DVD, we will only be shooting JPEG files. And there are 3 different choices for JPEG quality: Fine, Normal, and Basic. The difference among the 3 choices is the level of compression that will be applied to the image. Fine has the least amount of compression and so therefore offers the best quality. That's the one we want. You should almost always shoot with image quality set to Fine. Now, the next decision is to choose an image size. Image size is measured in pixels, and the greater the number of pixels, the better the image quality will be. On the D5000, large images are 12.2 megapixels, medium images are 6.9 megapixels, and small images are 3.1 megapixels, which is still pretty big, but the large setting is almost always going to be the best choice. After all, the camera's high resolution is one of the reasons you bought it. You can always make a large file smaller, but you can't make a small file bigger without a significant loss of quality. So, at this point, we've set the camera to record images with the JPEG Fine quality setting and the large file size. Those should really be your default settings for almost anything you shoot. However, there's a few advanced controls that can be used to further fine-tune the quality and style of your images. As I said earlier, there are 13 settings on the exposure mode dial, and they can be divided up into 2 groups: the advanced modes and the point-and-shoot modes. We'll be talking more about the exposure modes in the next chapter, but I wanted to remind you about them now because the next picture quality settings we're going to talk about are only available with the 4 advanced modes. In the point-and-shoot modes, the camera sets them automatically. The first menu is called Set Picture Control, and it offers advanced control over sharpness, contrast, brightness, saturation, and hue. There are 6 presets, plus the option to fine-tune each of them manually. Standard is the default setting and provides balanced, middle-of-the-road results. This is the best choice for most shooting. Neutral offers minimal in-camera processing and is the best choice if you will be extensively retouching your pictures later on the computer. But if that's the case, you might want to consider shooting RAW instead. Vivid provides stronger, more vibrant primary colors. Monochrome reduces the color saturation to 0 so that you can take photos in black and white. Portrait lowers contrast and softens the sharpening to smooth out skin texture and hide minor blemishes. And Landscape is designed for outdoor shooting. So which of the 6 picture control settings do I recommend? Well, that depends on you. If you're the kind of person who is going to transfer the images onto your computer and then make some image enhancements before printing, then I suggest leaving it on standard or neutral. But if you plan on printing directly out of the camera, or if you simply don't want to be bothered with making adjustments on a computer, then go ahead and choose the setting that seems most appropriate for whatever you're shooting. Another function that is only available when you're using one of the advanced modes is called active delighting. Active delighting attempts to preserve details in highlights and shadows, thus creating images with an improved contrast range. There are 4 levels to choose from that will control how strongly the effect is applied: plus off, and of course automatic. Now, because the results of these settings are all subjective, I'll leave it up to you to do some experimenting of your own to see which one looks best to you. But this is one of the few settings on the D5000 that I usually leave on auto. Now, as handy as all this in-camera processing can be, in my opinion, the best approach is not to go too far with it. Keep the image manipulation to a minimum and instead use an image editing program on your computer where you have much more control. Plus, don't forget that on the computer you can easily undo anything that you don't like. It's very easy to verify what your current quality settings are at any time while you're shooting, just by looking at the shooting information display. And as we saw earlier, you don't even have to use the menus to make changes. Just press the I button, scroll to the setting you want to change, select it by pressing the OK button, make your change, and then press OK again.